RE at Ripon Grammar School is about philosophy, ethics and Buddhism. Obviously I'm biased, it's like the best subject in the world because we're thinking about the meaning and purpose of life, we're thinking about how we should live our lives, and we're developing a way of looking at the world that enables pupils to work out their own philosophy and live a meaningful life. So it's not just a subject, it's RE is like it is almost like a way of life in itself, I think. So we look at some really important issues which I think pupils get a great deal out of in terms of the way they think about them and how it enhances their development of their own personal philosophy. So we have lots of debates and discussions in lessons which people really, really like. But it is hard work because you have to do the prep, you have to do the reading, so it is a challenging subject. I think students gain a great deal from studying RE. I think they gain a lot of self-confidence and belief about how to critically evaluate ideas and beliefs, including political ideology. I think it enables students and empowers students to understand a bit more about what is actually going on in the world and why people have the different perspectives that they have. I think it enables pupils to be a bit more broad-minded and engage with different cultures and ideas. And the kind of qualities you need to be successful in RE at A level are intelligence, a desire to learn, a thirst for new knowledge, a willingness to work hard, to read around the subject, there is a lot of reading, and to craft your writing, your essays, with our support and help to the point where you are able to evaluate the questions you get in the exam. We don't have huge classes. At the minute, for example, in the lower sixth we have 16, which is quite big. So often there'll be somewhere between 10 and maybe 16 pupils studying the subject. That's really good because you need a reasonable size of a class to have good discussions. You don't want too small a class, but equally you don't want too many people studying it because then it becomes a little bit impersonal. And we do like to think that in a sense we're kind of a family when we do the A-level classes, that we all get on with each other and support each other. Pupils who study RE at A-level have gone on to study all sorts of things at university, including the obvious things like religion and theology and philosophy. We've had quite a few students recently who have gone on to study PPE, philosophy, politics and economics, which is a classic route into being a politician, maybe even prime minister. And students have gone on to study other subjects. So for example, economics as an individual subject, law is very popular, medicine, medical ethics issues are obviously related to that. So any subject where you need to be able to critically evaluate what you're studying, RE is a great subject for that. In terms of philosophy, which is really an attempt to understand some of the big questions that we all ask, such as, is there a God? Is there a meaning and purpose to life? Is there a life after death? How should I live my life? We study some of the classic Greek philosophers, such as Plato, Aristotle, and we look at other philosophers such as Descartes. We deal specifically with questions on the existence of God. So we look at some of the classical arguments for and against God's existence, such as the cosmological argument, the argument that there is a God because the world appears to be made with design and purpose, or the argument from the first cause argument, which is quite complex. Aquinas argues, for example, that in order for there to be anything at all, there needs to be something which itself was not caused, and he says, of course, this is God. There are problems with all these arguments. argument, so we're looking at both sides of the argument. Well, in philosophy, we also look at problems to do with evil and suffering. So, if there is God, for example, who is all-loving and all-powerful, how is it that we live in a world with so much suffering, not only for us as humans, but also in the animal world? Could God have not made a better world than this if he really loved us? Is there some purpose, for example, in suffering? So maybe he has a purpose, but that is a difficult argument, for example, because if you think of the depth of suffering in the Holocaust, it's very difficult to see how there could have been any meaning or purpose behind allowing such a terrible thing. We also study ethical issues, so that includes looking at various ethical perspectives. For example, utilitarianism, which says that the best thing to do is to do the thing that creates the greatest happiness for the greatest number of people. We look at Kant's philosophy, and he says some interesting things, such as it's never right to use a person as a means to an end. So we should always treat people with dignity and respect as people in their own rights. Joseph Fletcher's philosophy of ethics is that the thing we should do should be the thing that is the most loving thing. So essentially he's saying love is all you need, and he bases that on the Christian idea of love, which is agape in Greek, meaning unconditional love. And then we also look at Aquinas' natural law theory, which is a more traditional Christian view on what's right and wrong. We look at specific issues in ethics through the lens of those four theories. So we look at business ethics, issues like whistleblowing, capitalism, globalism. Are there certain practices, for example, in the world of business that are unethical? How do you treat your workers? How do we treat the environment? All those kind of issues. And those are really, really relevant and important issues in the world today. And we also look at sexual ethics, so issues to do with marriage and sexuality, for example. And in addition to that, we look at the medical issue and legal issue of euthanasia. So the thing about the ethics part of the course is that we're looking at things that are about the world today. So we're not looking at something that's just in the past. We're looking at ethical, philosophical theories and how they might be applied in the world today. And again, pupils really enjoy doing that because it's about the world they live in. The other thing we do is Buddhism. So we look at the whole of Buddhism as a religion and a philosophy. Some people would say Buddhism is not a religion because there's no God in Buddhism, but it has a lot of the things that one would normally associate with religion. So it's got a founder, the Buddha, who had certain ideas and teachings. It has people who dedicate themselves to that way of life, like monks and nuns. And some people would say Buddhism is a psychology rather than a philosophy, because it's really about developing an enlightened state of mind. So we're kind of, in terms of Buddhism, we are looking at it's a very in-depth study of the religion of Buddhism and the philosophy of Buddhism, and we look at some of the key ideas such as impermanence, that everything in the universe is constantly changing, there's nothing fixed, and that is a cause of suffering in our life because most of us become attached to things and people, and when those things change we find it difficult to let go of them. We do topics such as meditation as well in Buddhism, which a lot of the pupils find very, very interesting and also in some ways useful to develop as a tool to live a less stressful life.